Bogali Bihu, Shubhecha. Namaskar, Professor Deka, Professor Hiren Gohain, Professor Dutt, friends. There are so many old friends who go back to 50 years, 60 years, and new friends. And this function is so moving and a historic occasion. And you have planned it so well. It starts with a wonderful welcome song by a talented group, and Pranjal's famous Bansi Vadan, the flute performance. This is a wonderful occasion. I don't want to, read a paper, treat it as a seminar, make it such a serious occasion that the character of this wonderful event, a celebration of a great public intellectuals' works, and more to come. I don't want to change the character of this wonderful occasion. I will have a few things to share with you. I have a few notes. I have written something, but I will not speak about intellectuals in general, by the way. Is that the role of public intellectuals? That word public is very important. I think everyone present here is an intellectual, but some are public intellectuals. Therefore, I will specifically talk about public intellectuals in a democracy. I don't know when the occasion was mentioned to me, very quickly Akhil and I agreed on this topic because this is such an important topic for the occasion to celebrate Hiren Gohain's works, and also to respond to, well, let me borrow a word that he used in his address to the Sociology Congress in Tezpur, was it? Yeah. Crisis of reason. Crisis of reason globally, crisis of reason in India, where so many oppressive, authoritarian, crippling trends are on. So many positive trends are also on, and people are fighting for democracy and justice for everyone. Therefore, we thought this topic would be most appropriate. If you say what should be the role of public intellectuals in a democracy, I would say be a Hiren Gohain. You can't be a Hiren Gohain, be like Hiren Gohain. So that's what is the central message of this occasion. Indeed, it's a great privilege for me to be part of the celebration and to reflect upon the crisis of reason in our times and what role public intellectuals can play to respond to that crisis and help one another to create better conditions in the world. And I'm so glad you have framed the citation so aptly. And I was telling, he, as always, he was saying, oh, they have said so much more, and so on. I said, no, you are more than all that. So that is the view. And I must confess, personally, Hiren Gohain has been a unique inspiration for me for over 5 decades. As a legendary teacher, literary critic, and a distinguished scholar, and a public intellectual, he has enormously influenced the social and political debates on crucial questions of modern India. And that's what to be celebrated. He is a modern Indian intellectual who is located in the Northeast and has taken the greatest advantage of that linkage between the cultural specificity, history, and uniqueness and pride of people of a region with the cultural characteristics and the character of Indian history and Indian people. So that linkage, very few people are capable of doing effectively justice to a linkage between people's history of a region and a larger region. And, as was pointed out in the citation, a citizen of the world. And in fact, I'll come to that in a moment, but I will straight away mention something. Public intellectual, how do you define a public intellectual? You can define in any way, but how do you translate that into our own languages? In Odia, there is a very, very sort of mechanical translatese, Sarva-sadharana Buddhijibi. I mean, people use it, writers write it about, and so on. Several of us are very familiar with this term, but I find it extremely inadequate and unsatisfactory. Sarva-sadharana is a very mechanical word, though sarva is a very important word, no doubt about it. Here, and Buddhijibi is a term I protest, just to make a distinction between Sramajibi and Buddhijibi. You see, you have Matsyajibi, you have so many jibis, those who earn a living out of doing something. That's very mechanical. I think we are all Sramajibis. In fact, I use a term called Sramajana. A human being by definition is a Sramajana. So, Sramajibi, Buddhijibi, Matsyajibi, several such terms one has to use with some caution. Here, I go back to Rabindranath Tagore, and he is a great inspiration to Hiren Gohain also. And Gohain's comments, explanations, critique of Gandhi, Tagore on so many fronts, on so many issues is a fascinating part of our own education. Anyway, Tagore used the term Vishwamanava Sagartire, famous poem. So can we say Vishwa Vidwan? I haven't thought very much on it, but public, and we have poets and writers and philosophers, journalists here, literary critics. So let us find a better term. For the time being, I would call Hiren Gohain a Vishwa Vidwan, a global intellectual of a particular kind, a high intellectual is a Vidwan. But I would say, I think Vidya is a very wonderful term. So it is, an intellectual is one who has specialized in one Vidya, okay? Therefore, Vidwan is a good term. And in this case, public, is it Indian public, Northeast public, global public? I would say global public. A public intellectual is a global public intellectual. I mean, a Bertrand Russell, who headed the Vietnam People's, the tribunal against American imperialist aggression on Vietnam people in London. I mean, he was a public intellectual. He was a Vishwavidwan. Noam Chomsky doing similar things on so many issues today. He is a Vishwavidwan. So is Hiren Gohain. And public intellectuals have to aspire to be really Vishwavidwans. No matter where, so when the apartheid was in its ugliest form in South Africa, people all over the world and many campaigns and campaign leaders, writers, poets, were active on it. So Vishwavidwans are engaged in that kind of work. So for half a century, Hiren Gohain has devoted himself, more than half a century, to sharing actual experiences of struggling people, especially sharing the woes and experiences of deprived groups, oppressed groups, analyzing them, and analyzing them not only for people of the Northeast, but for people of India as a whole, as an Indian intellectual. I think we always, when there is a event, there is a development in the Northeast, we wait for the column or the contribution of Hiren Gohain, either in Frontier or EPW or some journal. Now, his sisters are doing that, including Ranjan Das. So this is... So three things are remarkable about Hiren Gohain's writings. One is his mode of putting every problem in a historical perspective, going into the roots of the problem. That's what an intellectual is expected to do. And combining larger processes with specific situational developments. I think that's extremely important. And this is what an intellectual does. And he has done it marvelously all these decades. Second, and I don't want to give examples, you are all familiar with this. He resists the temptation of joining the tidal wave of the moment. As someone who has a historical grasp, he doesn't hesitate to make unpopular statements, give warnings to the actors in the field or the rulers of the present or past. This is extremely important. His many warnings have turned out to be prophetic. I don't have to tell you here. They have been prophetic in Northeast and in India as a whole. Third, his intellectual engagement with ideas, schools of thought and concepts has been most creative. I don't know whether he knows that we have a creative theory colloquium, and we dabbled in this term for 30 years or more. And here we have really a creative thinker, a creative philosopher, a creative writer, a creative intellectual, deriving much inspiration from Marxism. His writings, whether it is on identity, nation, state, development, sociocultural issues, he brings complexity of each of these problems into the analysis, relating it to political economy, particularly, the way most Marxists do. But he does more than that, explaining specific situations, institutions and practices in wider processes, not only of feudalism, imperial, you must not miss that. He insists, we have to see how feudalism, semi-feudalism, imperialism, colonialism, various exploitative systems work historically and have been theorized by so many thinkers, especially Marx and many Marxists, including Gramsci, Habermas, and so on. Habermas, in his own way, he would challenge all forms of determinism. This is what makes him creative. All forms of oversimplification, and don't have mechanical deductions from what you have learned or what you have been told. That is why he is a